Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Lauren Walker. I'm Senior Director of Strategy here at Inman. And on this episode of Inman Instudio, we are talking teams, but not just teams in generic sense, teams specifically at an indie brokerage, which is a really exciting way to look at that. So I'm super excited to welcome John Cates from Meybohm Real Estate in Augusta, Georgia, and John Voigt from Propertybase to help us have this conversation. John and John, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Lauren. Glad to be here.
Thanks, Lauren. Excited to be here with you again.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to this because there's a lot of teams conversations happening on inman.com, on our social channels. And so this is a great hands-on look at a real brokerage doing real things and having software tools to help empower this change. So John Cates, take us into Meybohm. Introduce us to the brokerage, if you would.
Yeah, sure. So thanks again for having me. It's been interesting because Meybohm's been around for about 50 years.
Okay.
And so I think the indie term is an interesting one because I think that, people may also view us as traditional. And I think traditional maybe has a worse connotation. So indie sounds maybe cooler. So, I think, our market is one that, is not too dissimilar from a lot of others. I mean, Augusta's about 2.5 hours from Charlotte, 2.5 hours from Atlanta, 2.5 hours from Charleston. So, it's sort of a secondary market. We're in 2 different states. Our company was founded by a guy named E.G. Meybohm, who's still here. He's our chairman, and he started it from scratch, kind of a self-made guy. And, really built us into sort of our market leader here. We have about a 35% market share, about 300 agents. And, we just continue to grow. And I grew up here. So I grew up knowing the Meybohm name. It's kind of the brand here locally, but then went off and we lived in Atlanta, and I practiced law there and worked with a lot of different brokerages while we were there. And then, we moved back home. It was an opportunity to take a company that had been around a long time and try some new things, right? So how do you walk that balance between staying true to those values, that why people are here, the integrity, the foundation, the trust, the respect, the brand. But there were a lot of things that we needed to do differently. We needed to make significant investments in technology. Having John on here, we didn't really have a company-wide CRM, right? Our website really more of a, here's who we are, which I think was, what people did from 2000 to 2010. But now, it really needs to be a source of lead generation. It needs to be tied into your CRM. It needs to be tied into your relocation department. And we have all of those things. They just weren't really talking to each other. And so, I think our story is an interesting one because now we have sort of the next generation of leadership here. We've had some of our brokers, over time retire or do different things. And so, we, I think, are trying to tell maybe not a new story, but a new story of a company that's been around for a long time. And how do you do that without betraying the values that are your foundation, but also attracting newer and younger agents. And so, I have also added in and hired, some of our brokers have gotten younger or come from different backgrounds. And so how do you, I almost view it sometimes like a startup, in that, we're really trying to view things with fresh eyes, with new ideas, but how do you do that in an organization that already exists? And there are other companies, in our position that I think don't change. And they think we've got great agents, our splits are our splits, our services are our services, we're great people, stay here. And I think 20 years ago, like in a market like Augusta, you maybe had 2 or 3 true competitors. And now it seems like companies can compete with us day one. We compete with a different new company, it seems like almost every day. And they can compete from anywhere. They don't have to have an office here. Most of them don't. And so the competitive landscape has changed. And so we've had to change with it. So I think it's a unique story. Calling Meybohm an indie brokerage, I think makes me feel good. But I think that term is sometimes a little bit of a misnomer, because really what for us it means It means we're not in a primary market, but it also means that we're not huge, but we're big for our area. And it really means that, we've been around for a long time. And sometimes that's viewed negatively.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're a dinosaur. You've been around too long. Some people, the history isn't a good thing. But we've tried to share that in a way that says the history really just means we know what we're doing. But we're run with a group of young entrepreneurs that really want to take this company in a new direction. So that was probably a super long-winded answer.
Lauren, I want to jump in here because something that John
Yeah.
Cates has called out is interesting. I mean, first off, Propertybase loves working with independent brokerages. And I think independent brokerages personally and professionally is a fascinating story from coast to coast. John, you said you had 300 agents for Meybohm. That's, most people think independent brokerage is tiny. 300 agents isn't tiny. We have clients on indie brokerages who are larger than that and smaller and so forth. But when it comes to the indie brokerage plus team model, the assumption is that can't happen for all the reasons that John was saying why they're so successful right now is the entrepreneurship, the startup mode, the flexibility, so to speak. And we know where teams go. There's been a lot of talk about, on Inman.com, where teams going, the larger franchises or flags and so forth. It's Meybohm's story is fascinating because you can sit there and say, well, do you want to be a team or an agent amongst 50,000 and become a number on a spreadsheet, right? That just has a flag model? Or do you want to work with John and the marketing team and so forth that are kind of adding in this evolution of their brokerage in a way that allows you to have a voice and to really kind of have a partnership? And I think that's something that's a little different that I think Meybohm can John, I don't want to put you on the spot, but we can kind of talk about is just that relationship as a whole, how teams and agents shouldn't be scared to go to any indie broker. I'm not just talking John or
Sure.
Megan Moy at CMO, right? They shouldn't, at indie brokerages, there's that fluidity aspect that is, I think, is more key than is being given credit for.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I think, we've really wrestled the last 3 or 4 years with like, who are you? Who is this company, right? I think that the outside world has an idea, but I don't know that we internally did. I think we had some guiding values, but really what I think we are, and this is to me the real definition of an indie brokerage, or at least the good ones, is me and the rest of our management team are a group of entrepreneurs whose sole purpose is to help the agent grow their business, right? That's it. And so, if you were a team, right? Because I know we're talking about teams. I think there's this mistaken assumption that teams really only work well at a larger franchise flagship company, right? And my issue with that, because I've worked with a lot of those, is they have great tools, but normally they just have one, right? If you have thousands of agents, you have to standardize, right? There's only a certain way to operate at that scale, and that's through standardization of services and tools, right? So, the tools may be great, but there's only one. And so what I view as an indie brokerage is really, can me and the rest of my leadership team customize and work individually with these agents, right? And I know 300 is, it's a lot for our market, but, and you go to these different groups and we're always, normally one of the smallest groups there. But the reason that we've been able to get membership is because of our average transaction size per agent, right? If you look at average size per agent, the national average is 4 or 5, ours is 22. So 22 sides per agent per year for 300 agents. Our agents are super productive. And I think the reason for that is because we haven't cookie cuttered, if you will, our services, right? All of our agents and their teams, it's all customized. It's got to be individualized. And to me, that's the value that an indie brokerage can offer. So, talking about teams, it's not that you're going to go and get a specific standardized set of tools, and either you use them or you don't, right? You're going to have a meeting with probably me and 5 or 6 other of my teammates, and we're going to talk about your database. We're going to talk about the CRM. We're going to talk about your marketing. We're going to talk about succession planning. We're going to talk about retirement, personal finance. I mean, there isn't anything in the agent's professional or personal life that we're not going to help them on. And you don't get that help, no offense to this, but on Zoom from somebody else. Like, you're getting it from me, or you're getting it from somebody on my senior leadership team that lives in this market, right? This house that you're trying to sell, this $1 million house, we know where it is. We probably know the people that own it, right? And so that kind of level of customization is, I think, is what separated indie brokerages working with these teams, because they really are unique. And every team that we talk to, I know this is going to sound cliche, every team and every agent that we talk to wants to do something differently, right? I've got agents who are in their 60s that want to triple their business, right? And so, when you do that, you have to be able to take a step back and say, okay, what you need is unique. And we have to work with vendors, and Propertybase has been a great one, that allow us to customize for different people. Because as soon as we only offer one thing and say, take it or leave it, then I don't think our offering is competitive anymore.
That's really interesting to me, John, because when we say indie broker, we talk about, maybe there are some misconceptions, but one of the through lines that I see often is this idea of being nimble, of being, flexible. And I think what you're describing is exactly that, and the embodiment of that. I'm curious, because when we talk about the structure of a team, sometimes there's husband and wife teams,
Mm-hmm.
there's father-son teams,
Right.
sometimes there's massive teams.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say, in your experience, should an agent be thinking about when that agent is like, I think I want to start a team? What are some of the questions they should ask themselves?
Yeah, that's a great question. We sort of categorize teams in two different ways, right? The first is sort of what I'll call a true team, right? So that's me, John, and Lauren, right?
Yeah.
Our three faces are on all of our marketing. Our names are on the marketing. You go to our website, you're going to see all three of us there, right? That's one side.
Multiple hats, everything.
Yeah.
That's right. And so the other one is really just one person that has just a ton of people under them. And that is almost like a company in and of itself.
Right.
Right. What I try to change is a little bit of the wording that we use. Broker agent, okay, I understand legally that's what it's called, but truly Meybohm is a platform, right? I mean, our agents are not our employees, right? So what is Meybohm? It's something that they can plug into to grow their business. And so if you're either one of those two teams, I think that you have to evaluate it as, okay, what do I want to accomplish? Okay. And so I just did a presentation this morning for all of our agents on teams. And so it's fresh in my mind. But the big thing I think about is I think a lot of agents, when they start talking about teams and growing teams and adding people, they're thinking about money, right? They're thinking about, all right, how much is it going to cost to bring somebody on? Okay. And if I do this, I need to do this more production in order to be able to pay for them, right? That's always their first concern, is I know that I need this person right now, but what if things slow down? Okay. And whether that's a salaried person or I'm paying them off of a split, whatever, right? The currency that I want them thinking about with their team members is time, right? They don't interrelate and work with their team members in terms of money. It's time. Okay, because I tell all of our agents all the time, just like a lawyer or a doctor, you is the agent. That is a unique skill set, especially the really highly productive ones. So just like a lawyer or a doctor, there's a value on your time, right? So I don't want you spending your time doing a job that a $15 an hour employee for you can do. Same with buyers agents, right? Not all agents work well with buyers. Not all agents work great with sellers. Those are two very different skill sets. And so if you get them thinking about, your agents thinking about the currency that they work in is time, right? Everybody on the team, say take that second model where you just have an agent, you have a bunch of people underneath them. Everybody underneath them needs to be giving that agent more and more time, right? Because they know what to do with it, right? They know how to get in front of people. They know how to win business. They know how to prospect. And the conversion ratios, as you all know, of prospecting to your sphere of influence, blow everything else out of the water. So can we help that person, again, bring all of that flow of increased time up to the top? So that's how we kind of think about teams is, all right, you want to bring somebody onto your team. What does that mean? We found what it normally means is an agent wants to go out and hire a younger version of themselves.
Right.
That's what they want to do. They're like, yeah, this person's awesome. Like they are exactly like me 30 years ago. I'm going to hire them. And that rarely ever works. Because, as you guys know, in your everyday lives, you need to hire people that have complementary skill sets.
Right.
And so if we can get them thinking about time and saying, okay, if this person is somewhat like me in this area, very different than me in this other area. What that means is they're going to do things I can't. And whenever they do things I can't, it's going to give me, the agent, more time to help grow my business.
That's great. I don't think I've ever heard anyone refer to their brokerage as a platform. And I think that's a really powerful way to position it and to describe that relationship. And so as you talk about this customization, purpose-driven arrangement, I'm curious, what was the conversation with Propertybase when you came to them or connected with them to figure out, are you the right partner? How did you customize? What was the conversation like between your business and Propertybase?
Yeah. So, again, you're trying to take a group of really highly productive agents that like technology. I'll say they tolerate it.
Yeah, mostly. I think you can say mostly industry is tolerating it. I mean, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. Like, I get it. I mean, I see it in my own life. I'm not trying to describe, any agent as sort of like, I don't understand it. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it going to help me at all? Like, is it going to make me more efficient, or am I going to have to spend all of my time getting trained on something that is really just going to get in the way? Right. So what we talk about technology, you go to a conference or wherever you go, you always come away with like, man, there were 20 things that we need for our brokerage right now. But how many of those can I implement? Maybe one, right? Can I get the adoption that I really need to make it effective? Because it could be the coolest thing in the world, but if 10 of my 300 agents are going to use it, is it really worth it? So that was one of the biggest things that we liked about Propertybase, was we felt like there was some beauty in their simplicity, and that it was able to do powerful things, but it could also work for the agent that was really only going to use it at its bare minimum. And that's hard, particularly for a CRM. I mean, that's very hard, in a CRM that's tied into your website, because you're going to have agents, if you have 300, some are going to use this much, some are going to use that much. And it needs to work for both. And so I think that was one of the really key things we were looking for that Propertybase fulfilled. And when we were going through the customization of building the site and building the CRM, we were like, you're going to kind of be working with two different types of agents, and it needs to work well for both. So we liked that simplicity of it, but also that would allow some of our agents that use it to the fullest extent that they could use it too. So that was what was attracted to us, and that's proved out to be true so far.
Well, thanks, John, obviously. I think, Lauren, something that he struck home with about, right, that everything that comes down to in the real estate space is playing to your strengths. I think we've seen a history of, I'll use disruption in air quotes and so forth, about everyone needs to get on tech, the tech bandwagon, people start trying to create their own tech. And what happens when you start to spend too much time doing something that you're not good at doing? And as John Cates here so elegantly describes, they have a team, sorry, not their team, a management level and so forth, who know what they're doing to help their agents play to their strengths in the different market. And our relationship works well because there's definitely that trust factor of, okay, we know tech, they know Augusta, they know the real estate space, they know their different, John, you said there's 2 types of agents. I mean, there could be probably a dozen different types if you really look down the fine figures. I think that's what Propertybase affords them the ability to do so, is say, okay, we want to play to our strengths, let you all handle this stuff, come together, come back, regular meetings, CS support, so forth, check-ins and things like that to help with that flexibility. And I think scalability, that someone who looks at another team across the way and says, oh, they're jumping ship to XYZ franchise. Mm-hmm. What are they jumping ship towards? What was that reason for doing so? And that's why Meybohm, and I think a number of our different indie brokerages, but definitely indie brokerages should be looking at how Meybohm's process to allow them to have that flexibility, scalability. Customization shouldn't be a scary word because it's your business. It's your independent business. And Meybohm has built a platform as a brand, and they've luckily, for our sakes, they've taken Propertybase and built our platform into their platform to allow any agent and team to plug into and diversify their integrations, diversify what their business wants to do, not have an identity crisis when it comes to, well, my team and agent are attached to Meybohm. That's a strength. That's not a limitation. That's a strength if it's done right. And that's something that we are very honored to have as part of the relationship with Meybohm there for a number of years now. And we continue, and we just, we've seen their relaunch, selfish plug, but Meybohm just did a great little brand refresh, really. And they've got their 5 verticals and everything else. And it's really just that next evolution, I'll say it again, that Meybohm's going through that is really, really exciting for them.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. I mean, it's how do you integrate new technology without bringing too much change into your agents' lives?
Yeah.
There's some core basic things that agents do to grow their business, and they're tried and true. We're a firm believer in that. We're traditional in that. And so for us, disruption doesn't mean extinction. Okay. I think that's, I heard a great analogy that the escalator didn't make stairs obsolete. Right. And I think,
No.
I think that's a dangerous thing to say that, oh, there's this new technology, real estate's being disrupted. Sure. But if it doesn't make our agents more efficient in what they already know how to do, we're not interested. Yeah. And so I think it's how do you layer in pieces of technology to help them without them feeling like, everything's changing and what they used to do doesn't work, because it does.
I'll jump in and say, Lauren, I know we don't have enough time to talk just about the change in that digital landscape. That has to be another whole Instudio.
That's our next episode.
With cookies going away, with the Facebook iOS changes, like I'm a marketing guy true and true, and I still believe in a lot of the things that the Godfather David Ogilvy said 50 years ago. Right. I mean, and there's still, I think, John, you said it on point. You can come back from a conference with 20 ideas, and then you sit down and you research it and say, well, marketing automation sometimes has made us dumber because we've over automated the simplest of tasks or forgotten why we want to automate something. And then we're in a relationship business. We are in a relationship real estate business. And, I think that is held true through the decades of disruption that the real estate era or what have you has seen. And no matter when let's look at, franchises to teams to, agent focused brokerages and so forth. So Lauren, that should be another topic for another day, because we could talk all day about the marketing and tech and so forth.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think that's really that's an interesting dynamic that Meybohm and John and his whole entire team have really played out.
That's great. And John, what I'm taking away from this, and what I think our viewers will also take away from this, is the idea of that time. In both, when you're building a team, you need to assess it through the lens of your time. Is this giving you more time, or is this taking away from it? When you're partnering with a tech company, is this solution going to give you more time, or is it going to take away from it? And so the parallel there, I didn't see that coming, but I love it. And really appreciate you talking us through that today. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me. John, always good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Thank you both. We really appreciate your time. It was a great conversation.
Thanks, Lauren.
Take care.